So Al is now going back to the vehicle.
Critical, as we pointed out before, is the fact that they believe that any type of intrusion, especially by the media, could trigger a confrontation, could trigger something to happen. If you look ahead of me here, I'm not sure if our photographer can get a shot here, but Steve, you can pan off to the right. If you can pan right, Steve.
Al, I think we're going to stay with our helicopter picture. If you just describe for us what you're seeing. Okay, now we've got a split screen and we can see what you're talking about, Al.
Okay, very good. As I said, nothing apparently from the house, but what you had seen before.
Okay, Al, to just update you and the rest of our viewers, the man we believe to be Al Cowlings.
This is Larry King in Washington at CNN Studios, staying atop this scene for you now through Fox 11. We have just been told that 2 photographers who try to run across the lawn have been arrested by the police. We have affirmed that Al Cowlings is apparently negotiating. He was the driver of the car, the longtime Simpson friend and teammate at USC. There are police in the doorway. This is the driveway to the OJ Simpson house in Brentwood. He's driven through 2 counties, and we followed him all the way. That's a police car behind him. And OJ is in the car, apparently. Cowlings is now either by the door. Let's go back to Channel 5's coverage, KTLA.
Back behind the yellow tape, they're so far away that they're not seeing anything. They're being kept back by police. We have seen a number of police officers going in, looking as if they were SWAT team members, people wearing the bulletproof vests. They just sort of arrived here on the scene.
Well, what's interesting to us, Eric, and we're looking at it, and you and I both have different perspectives. What's interesting to us is that he is staying in the vehicle, not getting out. He obviously came back to his home to be at his home, to be in the home. But he's not in the home. He is staying in the vehicle at the present time. I suggest there's some quid pro quo here. There's something he is waiting for, so that he is going to stay in the vehicle and probably still has that weapon. They're going to stay in the vehicle until something happens. What that something is, we don't know. We can only speculate, but that, I suspect, is what's happening right now. He could be waiting, as we said before, Eric, for Robert Shapiro to show up on the scene.
And then the 3 officers standing there with no protection in front of them, not apparently worried to the dangerous situation, but they've been out there negotiating, obviously, is what they're doing.
Right, they've been speaking. There's been communication going on either between the police officer there and Al, or perhaps even OJ and the police officer are communicating at a distance, but within view of each other.
You know, I'm sure that he has a cellular phone there, because we've been informed of that, and I'm sure that a lot of stuff's been going on over that cellular phone.
That you can actually see the officers speaking.
We see officers running in now.
Yeah. 2
officers running in beside those patrol cars, wearing the bulletproof vests.
You know, we do have to put in
But police, according to the scanners, are listening to him. They've been very, very upset, of course, with all the helicopter traffic overhead, saying it's been extremely difficult to hear. I heard at one point they were yelling to try and get the helicopters out of there. I don't know what happened with that. But they are, according to the police scanners, talking to OJ on the phone from inside the house, trying to negotiate something.
All right, Jane. Now, where are you in relation to Al Nipo, who's about a block and a half south of the house?
I have no idea. I am, I would say, a block due east.
Okay.
And there's a big crowd here. Of course, people, I just don't know what to make of it. Jovial, laughing, running to the scene, having like a party.
Well, and that's what Dr. Tom Linden, the psychiatrist we had on earlier, the man who's been talking to O.J. Simpson inside is, and we see police officers in the front door of the house now, Jane. Police officers standing there, openly standing there,
right,
talking apparently to the man who is sort of in the middle, literally, between O.J. Simpson and the officers. Officers at the top of your screen, O.J. Simpson in that vehicle at the bottom of your screen, and the man we believe to be Al Cowlings talking to both sides.
It's interesting to note the way the 2 officers were standing there. We can assume that they're wearing any kind of bulletproof vest that they can. but they were not in a way protecting themselves. They were basically just standing there almost casually talking to the driver of that vehicle. Al Collins looks like he is still attempting to talk to them and relaying perhaps some information to Simpson, believed to be also in that vehicle there.
Going back to what Dr. Linden was saying, is that it might be a very natural human reaction to want to stop and wave to a man who agitation factor. Yes, go ahead, Jane.
It appears from what we're hearing on the scanners, they are trying to put a phone call perhaps from OJ through to his mother. They're trying to arrange that right now.
Jane, is there an indication that his mother is in the house, or is she somewhere else?
I get the feeling she's not there by the way they're talking.
Okay. We should point out that Mrs. Simpson lives in...
about that, Chris. You know,
okay.
some of this is spotty and...
Right. Well, she lives in San Francisco, but she obviously was down here in Southern California yesterday for the burial of her former daughter-in-law, Nicole Brown Simpson, and we had thought perhaps that she was staying at her son's home before journeying back to San Francisco, but perhaps she has already left. The indication being now that they are trying to hook up a police, or a telephone patch, that is, between O.J. Simpson on the cellular phone in that white Bronco parked in his own driveway in Brentwood and his mother.
In case viewers are perhaps just joining us, we should perhaps let them know what has led up to this. At about 6:45, this white Bronco was spotted driving along the I-5 freeway. Authorities started following that vehicle. They figured out that it was the vehicle they'd been searching for, the Ford Bronco that belonged to Simpson's longtime friend Al Collins. They had followed that on the I-5 to the 91 freeway, then to the 405 freeway. It exited Sunset and went directly to the home of O.J. Simpson.
Al Collins has just walked from the driver's side of the vehicle back toward the front door of O.J. Simpson's home. As Jane Wells was telling us, the police are trying to work out a phone contact between O.J. Simpson and his mother.
Actually, if you can hear me, Chris.
Yes, go ahead.
They're trying to get the phone number. They're trying to get the phone number so they can hook it through.
Okay.
Again, we have more people running down the street here.
Now, there are a number more police officers, Jane, and I'm not sure what you can see from your vantage point, but a number of police officers standing a little more openly now than they had been, although they are on the street side of a hedge that surrounds O.J. Simpson's property, and it is starting to get dark.
Well, I don't have a visual on the house.
Okay.
We're a block away.
All right, there.
But I'm glued to my scanner here
There
because
you
that's
see,
the best information I'm getting.
There you see the entire neighborhood, Rockingham Court, north of Sunset Boulevard in Brentwood. As dusk starts to fall, another news helicopter going through the camera, or the scene there. The police...
Courtyard empty and 4 men talking in the doorway.
Well, it's going to be getting dark pretty soon. The sun sets, I believe, around 8:04 today. It's 8:20 now, so the sun, well, it's 8:18 I have, so the sun set about 14 minutes ago.
We have with us over here John Duncan with the LAPD Public Information Office. Can you tell us what's going on over there? Is there a negotiation taking place?
We're not going to discuss what's taking place here at this time. We'll get back with you in a little bit. You're just going to have to bear with us. It's a real sensitive point in this thing, okay?
Okay, officially, we're not finding out anything from the police department on what is happening. That's John Duncan. He's with the LAPD Press Relations Office.
Well, there's clearly negotiation going on, regardless of what he said or not. They're not just sitting there looking at each other, I can guarantee you that.
They're having
and I think that what's happening is there are negotiations going on both at the house, at the doorway to the house, and via cellular telephone. And those negotiations that are not going on over telephone seem to be with OJ's friend Al, who is acting as kind of a courier of information between the vehicle and officers in the house.
And he's just approached the car again. And as of yet, we've been unable to identify the man in street clothes there, and the tie and the shirt, standing in the doorway with the officers. It's unknown who he is.
There's a crowd of people here who are yelling, "Juice, juice, juice."
How many folks are would you estimate are locals there, you know, neighbors, and how many are from the...
I don't think there's a whole lot of locals here. These are people who watched the drama unfold and then followed it to this point.
Uh-huh.
A lot of them were on motorcycles.
That's interesting. Where did all the motorcycles come from?
Well, I don't know, but there was a whole bunch of them who were following. I guess it was easier for them to maneuver, and they just kind of zipped in and out of traffic and followed the pursuit to this point.
Interesting that the flashing lights have not been turned off. They've been on since the time the car arrived at the house.
And they don't know their own phone number, and they've been trying to dig that phone number up. I suppose so somebody can call them.
So you don't know at all, Jane, if they were able to get through to Simpson's mother as they were trying to do?
No, I haven't heard that yet on the scanner.
Naturally, Jay, now that I mentioned that it'd be by implication to kill himself and trying desperately to keep that from happening, Jane Wells on the ground in Brentwood, monitoring the police radios, telling us exactly as it happens what the police are saying to each other about the progress of things involving O.J. Simpson. But before we lose this point, let me make it one more time, and we can't make it strongly enough. Keep in mind what the psychiatrist said earlier on Fox 11, and that is to further agitate O.J. Simpson is extraordinarily dangerous, not only to O.J. Simpson, but to anybody and everybody around him, because someone who is suicidal can become quickly homicidal, and that means that there are his dear friend Al Cowlings, police officers around and about, as well as O.J. Simpson himself. So if you have the urge to go into Brentwood for some bizarre reason to be a part of something, don't.
Jane, I'm wondering, do you, listening to the scanners, are you hearing any mention of Robert Shapiro or Howard Weitzman, that is O.J. Simpson's current and past attorney?
No, nothing about that. The only outside, of course, you know, police couch it as much as they can because they know we're listening. But no, the only reference to an outsider has been his mother. Again, they just came on the radio again and said all units were on the phone with him, and we are, quote, just moving forward. You know, Chris, you've had a much longer career than I. Some have talked about this being the most notorious case since the Lana Turner murder case where her husband was murdered by her daughter. This, to me, outdoes even that. I have never seen a story like this.
Well, Jane, it's certainly in quote, modern Los Angeles, Hollywood, end quote, times, it certainly started out the equal of the Lana Turner, Johnny Stompanato, Cheryl Crane case of the 50s, where Cheryl Crane, Lana Turner's 14-year-old daughter, killed Johnny Stompanato, allegedly killed him, and did some time in the California Youth Authority. And it certainly rivals the Fatty Arbuckle case and William Desmond Taylor and so on, the notorious cases of Hollywood. But there certainly is no case, not only in Los Angeles, that I can remember or have ever read about, but anywhere in the world that has had this end to it, to the point that we are right now, to have a worldwide celebrity.
The calm cadence down to his voice as he passes the information along. Very low key.
That
and he
is
has
so
to be,
important.
he's trained
right,
to be.
right.
You know, and one of the things that negotiators have told me in the past that they're passing on at this point to O.J. Simpson is to just calm down, relax. We're here, we can talk forever. You know, there is no hurry. There's no time frame, there's no deadline here. Just relax, take it easy, and since the police have control of the situation...
Back, and perhaps that's the person O.J. wants to talk to voice. But again, that is purely speculation on my part. I do not have a visual at all, merely what I'm hearing off the radio.
Okay, just to orient you, if you're looking at your television screen and wondering if something's going bad with it, don't. It's not. It's dark in Brentwood. What you see in the upper middle of your screen is the front part of O.J. Simpson's home in Brentwood. Toward the middle of the screen, that white blob is the Ford Bronco in which O.J. Simpson has been sitting now in his own driveway for the better part of an hour. And at last report from Jane Wells on the ground listening to police radios, they are prepared to have him come out. He perhaps is giving some indication he's going to get out of the car. At that point, of course, the police are prepared for any eventuality, whether it would be a surrender, perhaps a fight, whatever. But they are prepared to take him into custody.
We have some new information that about what's happening at the scene. We understand Simpson's attorney, Robert Shapiro, has arrived at Simpson's home. Shapiro was hired on earlier this week. He is the second attorney for Simpson. He is the one who held the news conference at about 5 o'clock tonight, saying he did not know where Simpson was, that he had disappeared, and he made a plea for OJ Simpson to please turn himself in for the sake of his family, the sake of his children, to please give himself up to any authorities he might come across.
There's a rather dramatic wide shot of the Brentwood area. You can see that dark area. Now it's zoomed in past down on to the cars on the street, but that rather dark area in the middle of all of the lights is the area around O.J. Simpson's house, which is dark. It may well be, Christine, that the reference that Jane Wells was telling us a moment ago about the police negotiator saying something about somebody around the back may well be a reference to Robert Shapiro coming to the back part of the entrance to the O.J. Simpson estate in Brentwood to come and talk to him. Shapiro said at that news conference that he still considers himself to be O.J. Simpson's attorney. He, as Christine said, put out a fervent plea for O.J. Simpson to give himself up. And we now have the report that Robert Shapiro has arrived at O.J. Simpson's estate in Brentwood. You'll recall that on Wednesday of this week, Howard Weitzman abruptly left the case. He has been O.J. Simpson's attorney for a long time, and as a matter of fact, represented Simpson back in 1989 when Simpson was arrested for what turned out to be a misdemeanor spousal battery charge, a much controversial charge now in light of what has happened this week. But Howard Weitzman dropped off the case, explaining that he was too close a friend of O.J. Simpson's and had too many other professional commitments to give the Simpsons.
Now, one can only, again, speculate that they are talking on cell phones now, and then they will again come on the radio perhaps when they have something to report to the other officers on scene.
May well be that the negotiator is telling O.J. Simpson that Robert Shapiro is here, and perhaps having some update on the conversation that O.J. Simpson wants to have with his mother.
Shapiro is a well-known celebrity attorney here in Los Angeles. He has represented Marlon Brando's son Christian in a murder case. He's represented Dodger Darryl Strawberry, Vince Coleman. Tina
Sinatra in the stalking case involving James Ferrantino.
He took the case on, as you mentioned, Chris, earlier this week on Wednesday and basically proclaimed Simpson's innocence, saying that Simpson was home at the time that the murders took place, although the time was not exactly known specifically. He also negotiated this plan for Simpson to turn himself in when and if authorities were ready to press some charges. So he admitted today that he was devastated by what had happened, that it was the worst day of his professional career, that he had no idea that Simpson would run like he did.
They said they were concerned about suicide and had been all week, but the last thing that occurred to any of them was that O.J. Simpson would run.
Right. The plan was that they would be at this undisclosed location. Authorities gave a call to Shapiro this morning at about 8 a.m. and said, we are going to be filing charges that Simpson needs to surrender to authorities. They set the time for 11 o'clock this afternoon. That did not happen. They reset the time for 11:45. That did not happen again. Finally, at noon, LAPD said, we are coming to your location. We will pick up Mr. Simpson. He's considered a fugitive. Mr. Shapiro said they did not pass that information specifically on to Simpson. He had been at the house with some doctors. He had been sedated. He had been with some of his closest friends at his house. When the police car pulled up, Shapiro and others went to the room where Simpson and his friend Collins were. They went to the room and those two were gone. They had disappeared. So this would be the first that Shapiro, we believe, might have talked to or might see his client O.J. Simpson.
At 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Having a conversation with them, and they went down to get Mr. Simpson, and he was gone. And Robert Shapiro said he was surprised by the whole event.
Then taken to jail, but we have no confirmation.
Al?
This is Al Nipo.
Yes, Al.
Yes, I was just going to make a mention here. There seems to be some activity here coming off the Ashford Gate. We've noticed now that another 10 or so LAPD officers have gone to that location and gone inside, walking very slowly. It doesn't appear as though that they are in any type of defensive posture mode anymore. It's seemingly that it appears as though things are coming to a close right here. I cannot actually see any suspect or OJ from my vantage point here.
We've just been told that the people in the Fox helicopter, even though they are shooting the pictures that you see now can, with the naked eye, see a little bit better than the camera can. And they say that O.J. Simpson has been taken out of that Bronco and put into the police car that, if you'll recall, when it was a little bit lighter, you saw parked right behind the Bronco in the driveway at O.J. Simpson's home in Brentwood. So it appears that this has, knock on wood, hopefully over, that O.J. Simpson has surrendered. We have no absolute confirmation of that, but there are the visual reports that he
We have been staying atop this scene with you all day and all night, as we always do at CNN, and we have now received a report from Craig Lamont on the scene, our CNN journalist on the scene, that O.J. Simpson has surrendered to police.